Any concussion symptoms or no?
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple times yesterday you were tired, and I was.
Oh yeah, I was exhausted.
Like, do not go to sleep. Maybe you have a concussion. So I suppose we should go ahead and pivot, get started here.
Welcome
to the Video Reformation Podcast. I am Ben Oliver.
Justin Plant.
Well done. We're the co-founders of Storyboard Media and your guides to practicing effective video for business. We're like the Yoda to your Luke Skywalker.
We've never used that.
No. Again, I like to mix them up.
There for a while. Yeah.
I like to mix them up. They're the obvious ones. There's the less obvious, more obscure, no one's going to get this ones.
Well, you have to look them up, and I think that's half the fun.
Yeah.
Tend to ignore gay.
Yeah. So before jumping into our topic today, a little bit of housekeeping. Our topic today is form follows function, which I might actually mention was recommended to us as a topic.
Mm-hmm. By our friends at
Uncompany. And so yeah, what a perfect time to ask for you to continue to submit your topic ideas, any questions that you'd like us to answer. I imagine the ways to contact us are probably down here somewhere. Reach out, let us know what you want to hear us talk about. We can do this for an hour at a time.
What?
Talk.
Oh yeah.
About a random topic.
Yeah.
Throw
it at us.
Give us a curveball. Why not? Okay. I'm also very excited to announce. Usually we're kind of disappointed when we have to have a new sponsor. Mm-hmm. But I'm actually really excited about this one, not because it's particularly good, but because they were actually. That's true. I may get into. We'll have to edit that part out. Well, yeah. Well, and that's actually part of. So this was actually the third sponsor ad ever submitted to us. But we've been waiting for certain, shall I say, government clearances.
Okay.
And they finally come in.
Is this alien oriented?
This is not directly alien oriented. But we are very excited to welcome as our new sponsor, the Chernobyl Tourism and Visitors Bureau. You might guess what some of the red tape was that they had to go through to get it all. It's a communist joke.
Oh, that's good.
It's the kind of content you can expect from us here at Storyboard Media. So yes, a long overdue welcome to the Chernobyl Tourism and Visitors Bureau. I am excited to share the full spot later in the episode.
They are back.
They are there. All right, so full spot later in the show. Now on to form follows function.
Mm-hmm.
Nice and alliterative. A nice group of three.
Yeah, let's
talk about that for a half an hour. Let's talk about rhetorical devices.
I was going to suggest we stick with the theme of alliteration the entire episode.
Okay. Obviously.
Nope, not.
No?
Never.
Okay. God, we're nerds. So, what does that mean?
Well, actually,
where does it come from?
I believe our friend from Acanthus Construction might actually know this little tidbit, but it comes from the architecture world. So most people have heard of Frank Lloyd Wright. Mm-hmm. He's a very famous modernist, or there's probably a better term for that, architect. But his sensei, his Yoda, his storyboard media, if you will, was a man named Louis Sullivan. Louis?
Louis to his friends.
Okay. Louis Sullivan. He kind of...
I believe his true friends called him the father of the skyscraper.
Yeah?
Yeah. Did I say
like
that?
This? Is that what they, like when they call him up, they're like,
yo,
is this the father of the skyscraper?
Father of the skyscraper. What's up, Louis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's...
Right? I mean, it's tying it all in. You don't want to... Like, I imagine there's some other people who are like, no, I'm the father. And then Maury came in, and he was like, no, Louis, you are the father of the skyscraper.
Maury Povich?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
It's a bit on your
get
show,
it.
Right?
Yeah,
no, there it is.
I'm like a step behind today.
That's
it must
okay.
be the head trauma.
You know what it is? we're rolling a little bit early because we're so prepared for this episode in advance.
Yeah. Pretty proud of us. Yep. Oh, no touching.
Nope. There's a very thin acrylic separator here that's
virtually
right
invisible
on camera that you can't see, and so it looks like we're touching hands.
It looks like we're kissing.
Finally. Okay. Form follows function. So, Louis.
Yes.
Talk to me about Louis.
Well, he believed that in order to, I guess maybe in an effort to abandon some of the more traditional architecture, he wanted to usher in a new era of building buildings, usually commercial, where the form, the shape of it, the look, all of those things, that was only, it was based on what the function of that building was. So is this building supposed to fit, 800 desks and be easily accessible and have a lot, I don't know. I didn't look too hard into it.
Perhaps you could say that, is this structure supposed to keep people focused on their job? Or is it supposed to be a comfortable space where people can live? Mm-hmm. Is this about productivity? Is it about collaboration?
Is it about leisure? Manufacturing or office workers or whatever? And then build around that, design around that.
Which seems obvious now, to be honest. But, if you look at, heck, look at Main Street, Durham, right here. Up until this point, this was what, the 20s? 1910s, 1920s. Look at all the buildings that still remain in downtown Durham and how many old, historic downtowns there are. Everything looks the same. Mm-hmm. Whether it was a shop, an office, a store, not a factory maybe, but, some light manufacturing.
Well, there was a lot of tobacco warehouses, but when were those built?
My building was built in 1898.
Okay. So pre-Louis.
Yeah. Father of skyscrapers.
Louis.
Yeah. So long story short, Louis Sullivan is the one who actually originally coined the term form follows function. He made it less alliterative, and so I think the zeitgeist made it more. He had an extra word in there.
Oh, did he?
The full line here, the full quote is, "It is the pervading law of all things organic and inorganic, of all things physical and metaphysical, of all things human and all things superhuman, of all true manifestations of the head, of the heart, of the soul, that the life is recognizable in its expression, that form ever follows function. This is the law."
Kind of reminds me of, I watched Pi this morning. I was up really early.
Why on earth would you watch Pi to start a day?
I haven't finished it, but just the paranoia and the math everywhere around you when you pour the creamer in the coffee or blow smoke out your mouth. Am I in for a surprise?
I've never finished it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No. Well, he just got the chip.
Okay.
And started, his computer started going again. So
all right.
That's where I'm at.
So form ever follows function. So when we were kind of getting ready for this, we were kind of looking up some real world examples.
Started with buildings, right?
Yeah, it started with buildings, but when you think about it, it's really all around us. And the most obvious example to me, well, I think that actually says it perfectly. The most obvious example to me is sailing, competitive sailing yachts.
Mm-hmm. You brought up the
America's Cup. If you haven't watched the America's Cup in the last 8 or 10 years,
when that
I think it was. I think it was because I remember in the late 90s, mid-late 90s, the America's Cups, they were still sailing on what we would recognize as a yacht. It has, a hull and a cabin, and I'm sure that, there weren't there wasn't a galley and, staterooms and whatever in there. But it looked like a sailing yacht that would be in a marina in any like
or
port
a kid's
city
toy.
that you
Even.
would.
Like, they're all the boat.
But if you look now, they look nothing like you could not sail this from San Francisco to Seattle to go on like a nice
It wouldn't
little.
be comfy.
No, because there's no inside.
Yeah.
So it's essentially two like pontoons connected by some carbon fiber and some netting. And then, whenever possible, the only part of the boat that's actually in the water
at certain speeds
are these like fin things with hooks. And so it's a radical change of drag because, of course, sailing, and one of the cool things about sailing, I think, is that it really is just physics, right? It's about air pressure and friction, basically. And so the more if you can't control the wind, then what you can control is your drag coefficient. Mm-hmm. How much of your kinetic energy is being dissipated in the water bumping up against your boat. So they got narrower and narrower and narrower, and now they are just these. I mean, when they are going at full speed, they have maybe 2 feet by 4 inches in the water. It is on a blade, and the pontoons are actually elevated out of the water when they're at full speed.
It looks like a catamaran, right?
Looks like a catamaran. Yeah. So imagine how little drag there is. But there was just this, and there was nothing in the rules, right? There was just this evolution of somebody all of a sudden said, well, if we're going to race sailing ships, why not redesign the sailing ship to do this? And it was a fundamental change.
It's freezing in here, but I'm sweating. I don't know what it is.
Are you nervous because of our impending kiss?
No, I don't know. Just got out of the shower.
Yeah, that could be it.
Sorry, you were saying something smart.
I was, but
I'm trying to look for the name of this type of boat.
I was
just fascinating.
I was
you have to look
nerding
it
out
up
on competitive sailing yachts. Competitive. How about America's Cup?
What's the names of the boats?
Well, you can do this on your own.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if I go back to Louis' full quote, like he's talking about things organic and inorganic. Mm-hmm. So also it occurred to me that the spiral shape, like in shells and mm-hmm. things like the chamber or the hexagonal honeycomb, mm-hmm. right? Like those are all primarily decisions because increased surface area mm-hmm. or fluid dynamics or what, but that's nature evolving to a point where it becomes its most efficient.
Right.
And so I can see how an architect studying those kinds of things, you can start to see those mm-hmm. kinds of patterns. And so, it's one thing to see it in like a physical space. I think our challenge today is to adapt it to something creative.
Yeah.
And I think that's another big point that well, maybe not a big point. Another point that I've thought of since we talked about this yesterday is that, I tend to believe, and I've said it many times on the podcast, that creativity is something that really can't be taught. You can teach someone probably to be more creative by pushing their boundaries, but like there has to be a core piece of creativity. And so when we talk about hiring for your team, those kinds of things, there has to be someone who's got that kind of innate creative ability. Mm-hmm. But to me, this is one of those ways that someone who is kind of innately creative, but maybe doesn't exercise it a lot, can really try to exercise that creativity. This is someone who maybe if they're stuck with no one on their team mm-hmm. who is creative, can actually take kind of a strategic look and end up with something that more creatively suits the scenario mm-hmm. than, this is just the type of video I know that can be made.
Yep.
I think so often you get that initial email or phone call or form submission where somebody's actually got it to the point where they say, I need an animated video. Mm-hmm. I need a product demo.
Yeah.
Maybe product demo isn't even that specific.
No, that's purpose driven.
Yeah.
But you're right, that happens all the time. And
I mean, what's your reaction to that? Is it, yeah, here's what we can do for an animated video?
Never. I mean, not really. I try and back it up and really understand what they're trying to do, and just try and sort out the assumptions that are baked into something like that. Because it could be as simple as their boss said, "Go make a video like this."
Yeah.
Like this one over here, and so that was animated, and they're like, "Well, I need a 2-minute animated video," and that's completely against the father of skyscrapers in his belief.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, Louis Sullivan was probably one of the original 3 wise men.
That's a callback.
It is a callback.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that makes sense. Like, why this shape, or why 6 stories, or asking all those whys does help you get to the foundation of what you really need, and that's based on your purpose.
So let's walk through what one of those conversations might be like. So if I said to you, hey, Justin, found your website. You guys do some good looking work. I need an animated video. Mm-hmm. Can I get a quote for that?
Let's back up for a little bit here and help me figure out what you're trying to do. Tell me about the project. What do what's happening?
I just want to make sure that we have a hard time converting people from like interested to actually buying.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that we're giving them that information they need, because it's just for some reason they just kind of seem to drop off at that point. Okay.
Why do you think they're dropping off?
Well, from what I'm hearing from my sales manager, it's that they're oftentimes asking for case studies or other companies that have used our product before, and so I just want to show how to use our product. But now that I hear myself say it out loud, maybe it's not about how to use the product. Maybe it's more about sharing other people's experiences with the product.
Okay. Why do you think that's important?
Well, I've been doing a little bit of research into the, early adopters thing, mm-hmm. and we've kind of got all of our early adopters on board, but we're trying to expand. We just mm-hmm. raised a Series A, and so we're going from our baseline customers to, now we have this mandate to be at, 3,600 active users mm-hmm. in 6 months, mm-hmm. or we don't get our Series B from those same investors.
Right.
So we're under a lot of pressure to go from the people who were willing to work with us early to people who, I guess, need more proof that it works before they buy.
Okay, great. Well, congratulations on the Series A. Why do you think video can help?
Well, at my last company, we used it a decent amount. We did a bunch of animated videos there. That was a consumer packaged goods company. Mm-hmm. And I get that in the tech space, this is a little different because we're not selling to regular people. We're selling to other businesses. I'm largely informed about marketing. I just don't apply it to my own company very well. This would be like your almost dream scenario.
Yeah.
Here. Like, answers this helpful. I don't know. Why do you ask?
How long do you want to keep going?
I mean, I think we're getting to a point, and then I suppose you could probably, this just takes me back to my sales days. I suppose you could ask, was like, well, are you open to something that isn't animated?
Yeah.
Or something like that. But even that kind of walking through, like, just, it's that digging.
Start to find the problem.
Getting to that, it's getting to the function, mm-hmm. right? Which we always refer to as purpose.
Yeah.
Right? That's like number 1 of the manifesto. It's about having that thing that you need this video to do, and from there, one of the things that you get to figure out is, what type of video should this be? How does mm-hmm. it look? How does it sound? How does mm-hmm. it feel? That is the simplest explanation of form following function. If I lead with animation, mm-hmm. that's the form leading function.
Right.
And that's not alliterative. And now I'm trying to make it alliterative, but that'll confuse people. Yes, the train is like change direction.
Something that trains can't really do.
Speaking of form following function. I lost my train of thought.
Train of thought. You, Ben.
No, I really did lose my train of thought, though.
Fair enough. So back to the purpose, like understanding what your purpose of your video is. And it's not always just, purpose alone isn't going to help you.
Oh, train of thought. I get, sorry. Yes. No, we were on purpose. Yeah.
Purpose alone isn't going to tell you, should this be animated or should this be live action or should it be even video? Like that's maybe not, that's just where you need to start. You need to understand that so that you can start to answer some other questions. Answering other questions. So basically we're getting at that strategic level of the 7 phases of practicing effective video, which is building out your strategy. So there are several other elements that are going to help guide you to the right decision. And it's beyond just animated or live action. Is this funny? Is it short? Is it long? Is it serious? Is it demo? Is it whatever?
I think there's an opportunity for us to distill the strategic phase down to a win without pitching type positioning exercise.
Go on.
I think we could. So when I think about the words that we use in our process, in the manifesto, in the fundamentals of creating video for business, the most important thing is your purpose. And purpose is a very specifically selected word. When we go through our springboards with clients, regardless of the level, whether we're doing it at the beginning of a one-off project or one of the full company deep dives, nowhere in those categories of things that we discuss is the word purpose. We've actually distilled purpose down into goals, audience, channels. And what occurs to me is we could probably create a Mad Libs type exercise where when we talk about your goals, your audience, and your channels, we then get a purpose statement for the video.
Yeah, it's all of those things combined.
So just like Win Without Pitching says, we do this for these people.
Oh, positioning.
Right?
Okay, now I see where you're going. Yeah.
We do blank for blank.
Okay.
We could reframe we could combine and distill the goals, the audience, the channels.
This video will do this for these people in these ways.
On these,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In these places.
Yep.
This video will get CTOs to sign up for product demos through a landing page, which people are driven to through a video campaign, pre-roll campaign, or something like that. That, to me, is a purpose statement. And that, to me, is less talking to our podcast audience than it is about something I think we could develop here.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, it's both. Like, in fact, let's pretend that was planned and that's something that we do. That's what I would do. What is the ultimate goal of this video? What is the audience that we're speaking to? And what do we want them to, and,
where are they going to,
who's the audience? What do we want them to do and where are they going to do it, basically? And then you have your purpose statement. We want these people to do this here. Then you get to move into all of the other phases, which we always just refer to as executing that plan. So if we want...
Well, because creative hasn't even happened yet.
Right.
So, it shouldn't.
No.
Until that is defined. And creative isn't even necessarily part of strategy. It's an element of pre-production.
Yeah. It's like once you have your strategic purpose, then you start to figure out, well, how do I creatively
execute that.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I was searching for the word,
Okay.
and execute totally works. How do I achieve that purpose? How do I, fulfill that purpose? Because that and in that distilled form, I mean, print it out on a piece of paper and put it up on, a bulletin board or something. Like, put it on your cubicle, put it on your whiteboard. Like, just have it there so that at any point in the remaining process, from what type of video should this be, who should we cast, what parameters should we set in our promo campaign, like, at any of those decision points, you get to look up at that main purpose and say, well, which of these options that I have in front of me best serves that purpose? And I mean, that, to me, it goes back to, I have always thought, so I mean, we've talked about my musical background, but I got into music early. And I always kind of saw creativity as, and I think this is just how my brain works too. I have a very analytical brain, which doesn't necessarily lend itself to creativity. But I always saw creativity as an almost infinite number of choices in front of you at various, like, forks in the road. So, for music, what chord progression do I want to start with, right? What key do I want to be in? Like, what, am I going to go with minor chords or major chords? Because, right? And so, like, and then that builds on itself. And then, what do the drums sound like?
Beats
and
per
then
minute.
do the, does the bass follow the roots, or does the bass do its own kind of walking? Like, there are all of these creative decisions that oftentimes aren't necessarily deliberately decided. You just kind of go through with muscle memory and things like that, and you try things, and then something just kind of feels right. I mean, that's a big part of creativity. But I've always seen creativity as these decisions that you have to make, and the more that you know what you're trying to get at, the easier it is to make those decisions. And so maybe with a video, there aren't infinite options in front of you. But if there's animated or live action in front
That's
of you,
one of your decisions.
right? I mean, if you go back to our little role play thing, no, not that kind of role play. If you go back to our little role play thing, if I as the prospect was talking about, like, social proof and how other companies have used this, then that's something where I'm probably going to feature actual users. And if I'm doing that, then I probably want the viewer to make some kind of connection with that user so that they can see themselves in that user. So is it easier to make for an audience member to see themselves in something, in someone else's experience, when they actually see that person, or when they see, like, an animated avatar of that person? And, well, I would argue that it's better to see the actual person and see all of the nonverbal cues when they're talking about how they use this and how it's helped them and all of those things. Because those are the things that I want to aspire to. That's what I'm trying to get out of this. So to me, then that says, okay, well, at least we're going to do live action over animated because I want to see actual people.
And now we're going to do scripted or non-scripted.
Right. Okay. Well, do I want to come up with maybe because I'm early on, maybe before the Series A, they didn't have enough customers. So maybe then they know what their kind of ideal customer is, and they could script that. But still, they're going to use actual people to represent those things and actors to express those nonverbals. Or maybe they've got a decent customer base. One of the interesting things that we've talked
And a
about
willing
before,
customer base.
exactly, is with the law of diffusion of innovation, it's those early adopters who want the credit for taking the risk. So you've got the people who want to take credit for taking the risk have adopted your platform just before the next group of people, who are the people who aren't quite as willing to take the risk, but they're willing to take a risk if they see that it's worked for some other people. So you've got what your next group of customers needs immediately following the group of customers who need to be seen as innovators, risk takers, whatever. And then you could probably go all the way down the line to, which platforms do we want this, right? Again, maybe, okay, well, where are we going to put our promotion money? Well, it's right there in our... Maybe it's not right there in our purpose statement. We want, CTOs to sign up for a demo on our landing page. All right, so now we got to get people to the landing page. So where do we know CTOs are consuming
Yep.
information, and where can we put this content in front of them that can drive them to that landing page? It's not, well, we have an email list and we're on Facebook and we're whatever. It doesn't really matter where you are.
Right.
Where's the audience? And then all of a sudden that list of possible places to promote is down to like 2 or 3. And then you get to figure out, where you
what
want
are the parameters there?
Yeah.
And that eventually leads you to the creativity may show up more in some of the writing and the shooting and the costumes or whatever it is. Yep. But you've continued to make more secure and better decisions for that video along the way by defining that purpose first.
It also, I think maybe there's another episode here. We've talked in some of our really busy train traffic this morning. Like that. And to you. I think we've talked before in some of our early episodes about like the quickest ways to come up with a strategy. And one of the things that I've always kind of got in the back of my mind is just map the buyer's journey. These are my top 3 personas. Mm-hmm. These are the journeys that they take to get from unaware to customers. Mm-hmm. And then what questions are they asking along the way?
Yeah.
Flip that question around into an answer. Mm-hmm. And that gives you the beginnings of a purpose for a piece of video content.
Give me an example. So your question is?
Our Jerry persona, who represents CTOs, just to kind of keep the same example going. When he gets to the consideration phase, needs to know who else has benefited from using this product.
Has this worked for other people?
Yes. Who has this worked for? Or has this worked for other people? How are other people using it? Those could even be 3 separate questions.
Yeah.
Right? Why do other people use it? How do other people use it? What is it that people are using the most?
What did they get? Yeah.
That could be 3 different videos right there. But the point of the exercise is to go through and map out all of the questions that they need answered. Your job as a marketer or salesperson, depending on company, depending on funnel, whatever, is to answer those questions.
Guide them to the right decision.
And your job, as I think all of us know, is not to tell them what they want to hear, but it's to honestly answer that question. Mm-hmm. And then they get to decide whether it's a good fit or not, right? Mm-hmm. The ideal marketing and sales scenario is that you're just finding someone who your solution to their problem is the best solution for them. Mm-hmm. And so going through that exercise of mapping out those questions gives you, forget video, I mean, that just gives you your content map, right? Yep. We need content that answers these questions. And that, I mean, you could even extend it. I mean, we are a video agency, so I don't want to speak too much to general content, but, back it up a step. Now, which of this content is best served as video? Which of this content is best served as a white paper, as a blog post, whatever? That form should follow that function, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's some stuff that is just so necessarily detail-driven that it has to be in a white paper, and somebody needs to read a 25-page detailed analysis of XYZ, that you would never put that in a video because nobody wants, like, the people who need that information really need to pore over that information. And video isn't a great format for that, like, super detailed, like, take your time with the numbers. People read those things, like, they read it all the way through, and then they bounce around 4 or 5 times. So yeah, I mean, from a content perspective, like, what's the function of the answer to this question, and then which piece of content is right? And then when you choose video is right, which type of video? Damn, it's a good thing we have a types of video series that people can go listen to and, understand some of the advantages and use cases. Yeah.
That was I knew we were going to meander around a little bit, but that was a fun first half.
Yeah. Is it time to hear from our sponsor?
Yeah, so you've kind of been doing a lot of the talking, so I think we're going to go to you for the sponsor. on this one. Do you want to read the spot?
So you mean a standard episode?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take this one. My vocals are all warmed up. And you have a head trauma, so.
I do feel a little out of it today.
And you have to be very, again, I mentioned that there was certain governmental red tape that this ad had to go through. And so we got to read it word for word. I don't want to get in trouble with the Russian government.
Is it in Cyrillic?
It's what I'm seeing is in
Russian, I mean,
standard American letters.
Okay.
That's what they're called, right? American letters.
Yeah. What are they?
I don't know. Cardinal. Imperial. I don't know. Non-Cyrillic. The Chernobyl Tourism and Visitors Bureau. Forget about Chernobyl and welcome to Chernobyl. Visit our interactive website and plan your trip today. Then, visit us in 3,000 to 20,000 years. But not now. Please don't actually come and stay here until another 3,000 to 20,000 years have passed. We cannot stress that enough. Chernobyl. What happens in Chernobyl spreads throughout Eastern Europe and has a half-life of 180 to 320 years. Chernobyl.
That was nice. It's just kind of like a good reminder.
Yeah.
We're here.
It's got a lot to offer.
Don't forget about us.
Booming metropolis.
Is it?
Was. Was. Frozen in time.
Yeah.
But for the love of God, do not spend more than 6 or 8 hours at a time there now.
What would you do in the 6 hours?
There's a Ferris wheel.
Okay. In operation?
I do not think it is an operation.
Okay. You can look at it.
You can look at it. Everything there's kind of creepy because it's frozen. Like they evacuated quickly. Like, I mean, it took them like 2 weeks to evacuate everyone, but then they pulled buses in and like everybody left. So there's like teddy bears and like classrooms just like in the middle of a class where everybody just got pulled out of the classroom. So it is just kind of frozen and
picturesque.
It's picturesque. It's a little dusty, radioactive dust at that.
So don't go kicking that around and breathing that in.
Do not snort lines of the dust.
Okay.
In Chernobyl.
Good.
Lots of wolves and bears.
Is that right?
I understand. I think it's largely
Wolf
been
bears?
taken over, but wolf bears. Russian wolf bears. Ukrainian. I guess it's actually in Ukraine.
So Russia just got the F out of there?
Yes, after the Berlin Wall fell. Actually, I believe Russia is slowly trying to take Ukraine back, but that's a political conversation we should probably avoid. So it's just exciting I think what they were doing, if I look at the original date of when they submitted this copy to us, and we're like, as soon as we get government approval, you can read this. I feel like they were kind of leveraging the popularity of the HBO miniseries, Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of back, they were relevant again. And so they really wanted to double down on that kind of awareness and really book out their visitors for 3,000 to 20,000 years.
God help them. I mean, like, it's not, I can't imagine what their budget is looking like, but it's not cheap to advertise on our podcast.
No. It's
some of the smartest people in the world are listening to this right now. And that's a highly valuable audience.
Yeah.
And they probably put every penny or whatever rubble or
ruble?
No, rubble.
Oh right, Chernobyl. Yeah.
What do they use over there?
Rubble. Dusty radioactive rubble.
Pile of rocks. But yeah, we truly thank them for participating in the show.
Yeah. Do we have a second half of the episode?
We have. It's not really like a use case. There are some examples of situations where, just to maybe help show or illustrate what actually happened and what came out of it.
I think we've got potentially one client-related use case that worked out well, and one that maybe is an example of why form should follow function?
First one is, well, we are not the kind of people who like to tout award-winning filmmakers or that kind of thing. We only ever apply for awards when it's the Vidyard Video and Business Awards, because that's based on results.
And free.
Yeah.
But because it's based on results, not, ooh, this was fun.
Yeah. It's not to pat ourselves on the back. It still kind of is. But anyhow. So we won a couple awards for this one. This is a really fun series. The client came to us and said they wanted 3 animated, like 2-minute-ish animated explainer videos. And
which we could do.
Yeah. Starting there is tough for us. So we did what we do. Because the old storyboard media 6 years ago would have said, okay, let's get in. Let's get into it.
You got scripts?
Yeah.
Great.
But that didn't, there wasn't enough for us to kind of do our job. So we took them through our strategic process, the springboard. Was that a 6 week? I think back then it was 6 weeks. It's always different. But spent 6 weeks interviewing members of his team, interviewing some clients, kind of doing our own research, because it was about AI and search, enterprise search, and things that we really didn't know much about, and realized a lot of other people don't either.
Very technical stuff.
Very technical stuff. So we had to sort our way through all of that. And what happened? There's a case study where you can kind of get into some of the details, but figured out that animation had absolutely nothing to do with it. He just thought because it was difficult concepts and it's hard to show AI.
And that's, I get that a lot of people have that instinct. That's not necessarily a bad instinct to have, to be honest.
Yeah. It can be hard to film AI. So he went straight to animation, but in the end, we wanted to appeal to people.
As I recall it, the key turning point was when we identified that we wanted to, for lack of a better term, dumb the technology down to where someone in the C-suite could understand it. But we knew that we were going to be getting to the C-suite through the technical people. So we knew it had to be technically accurate, but accessible to a less technical audience. Mm-hmm. And as I recall, that's where the whole thing turned. What do you recall that Andy wanted to do with these 3 explainer videos in the early phases? When did you kind of get down to that?
You mean before the sale?
Yeah, when he first came, he said, he reached out and he said, hey, I remember it being specific enough that it was like, hey, we got, 3 or whatever animated explainer videos, can I get a quote for those? Mm-hmm. I'm reasonably certain that was like the exact email or phone call.
Pretty short.
As you kind of went through like the role play that we did earlier, what do you recall of kind of that, I'm not sure. Like, where was the moment where it was like, I'm not sure animated is, and maybe that was during the springboard, maybe that was in the pre-sale process?
Yeah, I think it was leading up to the springboard, because I think you were involved in some of these conversations too.
Yeah.
We used to do that a lot more together. But I remember asking enough questions. Before we sent a quote to say, well, I think we need to kind of go through some of the paces here and really figure out what we're trying to do. And so that's why we do the springboard, because a lot of times we need to define that purpose. We need to define our audience, and we need to better understand so creatively we can come up with the right concepts for that purpose.
Yeah, and in its simplest form, I think that's the value we bring to our clients is we. It's kind of a yes and approach. Like, yes, we can totally do that for you. And I was going to say, but, and before we do, we'd like to, make sure that this is the best approach for this. Mm-hmm. So let's go through our kind of standardized process. And see if there's any opportunity to take a
Shake
different
out
approach or whatever. Yeah.
To shake out what we're really trying to do here and make sure that we're getting the most for our money
And often, I was going to say occasionally, but oftentimes, more and more, our clients have thought through that. And so they're able to present us with that information instead of us having to kind of pull it out. I think that's one of the great things that we've seen over the last couple of years. And I'd go so far as to say maybe that's what a lot of people did during the first 3 or 4 months of lockdown was because they couldn't make anything. They probably just thought more, because I think we're having conversations now where people are actually more prepared strategically. Videos that do this.
Well, and I think with financial uncertainty, people want to think through things a little bit more instead of just saying, go make 3 animated videos. It's, well, what are we really trying to do here? And as this whole world of B2B video continues to evolve, I think people are going to be more used to applying the principles that they do for other marketing strategy to video. But video was just so new. It was like, make video. And now I think people are starting to think about it a little bit more. We have put out 40 episodes. So
sure.
I'm sure they've listened to at least half. Let's talk about the next one that we've got on here. How do we want to?
Well, hold on.
Oh, okay.
So during the springboard, we uncovered. So during the springboard, we uncovered. Help me help you. I think part of it was the audience conversation too. Is that the audience was. The audience was
multiple people.
It was multiple people, and then it kind of came down to like, so is it fair to say that the intended audience is C-suite, but the conduit through which we get to those people are the more technical?
It was almost like part of our audience is our channel, right? So the kind of the doers, the people who press all the keys and do all the whatever, they need to understand how some of this is going to work inside their company. How is this going to integrate with what we do? Does it fit? And that's their job, is to figure that stuff out, so the decision maker, the ultimate decision maker, can say, all right, you like it, it checks, let's go ahead and do it.
And I think there's just something fundamentally with like AI powered enterprise search that it's not an apparent problem that a lot of C-suite people are trying to fix. Like, it's something that makes you better, operate better,
but it's new,
sell more, whatever. But it's not something where it's like it's hard to get people to understand. It's harder to get people to understand that there's a problem because they aren't using AI in their enterprise search, because it's something that's new and they've just never had it before.
And the technical people that are involved, they know it's important to bring this in, but the decision maker, even if it is a consensus sale in some ways, it's a consensus because these people are trying to bring solutions up top. So we knew that we needed to do a very educational series, but we didn't want it to come across as salesy. We just wanted to say, here's opportunities that you might be missing as a company. And so we built a YouTube channel that was loosely branded,
lucidly
branded. So it wasn't their actual company YouTube page. It was an associated page.
Well, it was the Lucid Thoughts YouTube channel powered by LucidWorks.
And so we brought in an actor to kind of talk through and kind of humanize some of this technical, strange stuff. And then we did our mix of animation. So we did a green screen and brought in animation where it was necessary to describe certain difficult and technical things, and also added some elements of humor to try and liven up a very dry topic.
Am I remembering right also that we kind of figured out that it was that kind of almost like pre-awareness part, because when we got down to like specific goals, I seem to recall that they just needed more in the pipeline. right? We talked about what is it that we really need to do here? Is it to get more of the people who get into the funnel all the way down? Is there a point where they're stopping? And I think it was a pretty confident answer. It's like, no. I need more people in the funnel.
That's right, because we were talking to the lead gen guy a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's important too, because that then tells you that you're on a thing where your call to action is not sign up for a demo.
Right.
Right? You're so top of funnel, it's not even quite a brand awareness thing. It's the like, you're missing an opportunity. Again, going back to the problem thing. It's not even so much that like you have a problem, we have a solution. It's just like, here's what's possible. Mm-hmm. And so it was all those kinds of things that got us to like, this should be very lightly branded, right? This should be an educational resource as opposed to a sales resource. I think that's what you were saying. The CTA is, watch more and subscribe to the channel as opposed to check out our site or whatever. We never mentioned any of their products in any of this stuff. And that was all very deliberate.
Mentioned solutions to problems, but not a LucidWorks solution.
It was basically like, how does what we do help you?
Yeah.
And we know because we do this thing, but like, we want you to have this information so that you can start to understand that there's an opportunity for you. Because you were the brand then that helped enlighten them to that, then you kind of have this leg up over everyone else in your space.
You're the expert.
Because you're the expert. And then they drop into the funnel. And then I think there was a confidence there that they had enough content. They had a wide variety of content.
Inside the organization.
Inside the funnel and inside the organization already, where they could get people through. They just needed to fill the funnel.
And so our call to action wasn't sign up for a demo, it was subscribe. And we brought them over 1,000 subscribers just through this fun educational platform.
And I mean, when you think about it, enterprise search powered by AI is pretty niche. So I mean, 1,000 subscribers
there's only so many companies who are going to be looking into this. Yeah. So 1,000 subscribers in that case is pretty impressive, given how small an audience there really is there. Okay, cool. I think we've also got an experience where one of our clients read form follows function backwards. Think there were a lot of purposes, and there was that was a part of it. They didn't know what the function was. They just went for it.
Yeah. I mean, I got to give them a lot of. So let's provide a little bit of context. One of our clients, in fact, I think our best client, had essentially put together a contest for their sales team to to kind of involve the sales team in some marketing efforts, to engage them, to
generate some ideas,
increase that kind of marketing and sales.
I think it's super smart because salespeople are on the ground and they know what people are asking. So that's a great.
Yeah. And in this particular organization, I think historically the sales department has kind of, I don't want to use the wrong words here, has kind of seen the marketing department as their like in-house make me what I need kind of department.
Make me PowerPoint.
As opposed to marketing saying, here's the content you need. And so really like the approach of involving the salespeople and making them a part of that process and understanding what their ideas were and to make it so that they actually got some engagement. What they did was they made it a contest as to which salesperson or salespeople could make the best viral video for their company.
And I think that's maybe where it went off the rails, because the if you're engaging sales because they have their feet on the ground or your ears on the phone with all the different prospects and whatnot, they know what the prospects want and need and don't have. But then they said make something viral, which is not question answer.
Yeah, I mean, just to nitpick, I think the mistake was like a half step later. I think if you asked your sales team, I think if they asked their sales team to send them video ideas, they would have gotten zero response. Mm-hmm. I think from what I know about this client, I think they had to make it something that was going to be fun and engaging. And I seem to recall that it was also a contest that was announced at like their regional or like national sales kickoff or something like that. So I think the mistake was then in setting the expectation that whichever one wins the contest will be made into
a professionally produced
version of that viral video.
Yeah.
I think there was tremendous value in the contest and the exercise.
Yep.
And I think they got engagement that they didn't expect to get.
Yeah, they had some of the videos were pretty fun.
Yes. And so I think that worked to that point. Mm-hmm. Now, the mistake that was made may have very well been asking us to then make the professional version because, of course, what do? We ask
too
why.
many questions.
and so it did. So there was. So I mean, like, you know, the curve of this whole thing was like, you know, fantastic idea, right? Great engagement, like fun ideas, and then let's make it into something real. And we're like, okay, this is cool. And then we're like, so well, maybe we need to. But why is that doesn't really. But then once we got all of that down to what do we really need here. All of a sudden, then we were able to come up with a fit. Yeah. Was it directly when that stuff is done? Will you be able to see any of those viral video submissions influence that? No. But can you draw a direct line? Yes, because
we have a paper trail.
Because we got a whole bunch of presentation decks and meetings with the client where we did do it step by step. But you know, I also appreciate that they gave us the flexibility to say, you know, don't just make a professional version of our winner here. How, you know, what other ideas would you guys come up with that, you know, are inspired by these things?
Exactly. That's kind of what it became.
And so there were some threads. But the reason that none of that stuff ever got greenlit was because it didn't follow any real function other than making the thing
and engaging the salespeople.
And if
that was the function or the purpose of these videos, then that would have worked.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe what I would do differently is yes, we're totally going to take the winner and we're going to make this thing. Because it's the important resolution of this outreach campaign that marketing has had with sales.
Yep.
And so it needs to it can't be an empty promise.
Yeah.
And also because this has ultimately inspired us to and driven us to find that this is what we really need.
Let's put some effort into
we need to do also. And so, you know, I think I don't recall whether we made it in either or they made it in either or. I imagine it was just at the table together. We were like, all right, let's forget about you know, the sales video, you know, the sales video contest kind of thing, because there was what we found through that process. But I find that a lot of times too is that we force our clients to, and I'm not trying to sell us, but because we ask these questions and we take this approach, we force our clients to come together as a group, like their little internal teams, and talk about these things. And they so rarely actually take the time to talk about these things together. And I'm perfectly happy being there as a facilitator to prompt the questions, to get that discussion happening, and we get to kind of nudge and lead.
We've seen a lot of light bulb moments in those meetings.
Yes. And I think, I mean, from a sales standpoint, that's fine. I mean, that's actually more exciting. Like, and I've said this for years, I think our potential prospects spend too much time thinking that they have to come to us with
a script,
a treatment, a whatever. Come to us with the problem, the opportunity, and then let's let's all get together and just start talking to it. We've got a framework in place where we'll get to where we need to go. But so often it's just the like, and and they kind of start off like, well, I admit we haven't really talked about this. We'll have to take this offline. And we're like, well, we don't have to take it offline. Let's talk about it right now, or whatever. And so, that's, I'm happy to be the facilitator of that if that's all we are. And I mean, and maybe that's the Yoda part of all of this, right? Is that we just get to, guide those conversations instead of dictate those conversations. But ultimately, we then get to what is it we're really trying to do here, and then that helps us make what they need. And and you can do that without us, right? I mean, that's why we do the podcast. We're trying to give you all these things to do yourself, so that you don't need us. But I don't know. That's
in the beginning of the episode, you brought up that because of your analytical mind, you feel like you've seen creativity. You've broken down the process of creativity into hundreds of little decisions, and I don't think you're wrong. But if you need creatives to do something for you, don't give them the creative idea. Give them the problem and let them help. They'll ask the questions, but let them ask those questions so we can come to a creative decision together.
When you're giving feedback, don't give them solutions.
Give them
bring
the problem.
And that's exactly what you were just saying.
Because creatives are hired to solve those problems creatively.
Yeah. And there is, and I don't want to, I mean, I think the creativity is making hundreds of thousands of decisions, but there's so much of it that's just a feel too, right? Like you just try some things and then something just feels right. I mean, that's part of being in a band is like, everybody's kind of working out their own thing on this new song or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, that bass line's really cool. Let's stick with that bass line. So then you kind of go through jamming on the song a little bit, and then that bass line actually informs me as the drummer. Right? And so now I can do something. It's like, oh, well, that feels really good together, but what if we did this with the guitar? And so you're just kind of moving all of these levers as you're going through because there is that sense. But it is, like, that feeling can inform that decision as long as it's not going against the function of the piece, right? If this is, I mean, what are we writing here? Are we writing like a happy, upbeat song? Or are we writing a breakup song? Are we writing, like there's always those kinds of motivations in the beginnings of songwriting. Why is it necessarily any different for video? It's like, what are we trying to make here? Now let's let the band go figure out how to make that song.
Let's jam.
Yeah. It was a hearty discussion. Anything else we need to talk about? Do we need to pour one out for Louis?
No, but you've got a little disclaimer at the bottom here that there are always exceptions.
It's true. But I think that, I mean, just like, I feel like I had some better examples yesterday. But just like you learn the rule of thirds to know how to compose a shot, then you get to understand why you would go against the rule of thirds because you're trying to do something deliberate. So you always want. So let's take the testimonial case study type example from earlier on. You could do scripted versus unscripted. Now, if without any other context, I think I would rather have my prospects connect with a real customer because there's more authenticity there. However, there may be reasons due to, like we discussed, a lack of customers or a lack of a budget or a tone of voice that your brand has, where it may actually be the better decision to do scripted use cases because that gives you more latitude to maybe be funny. Right, you're not relying on so it's
or you get to make sure that you hit these 3 points that you couldn't get one customer to say all those 3 things.
Exactly. So there are always exceptions, but that's also what I mean by 1,000 decisions along the way. Is but again, I mean you and if you want to, in parentheticals after that purpose statement, with the budget that we have, knowing that we have no customers, with the irreverent part of our brand in place, all of those kinds of things. Like that's a constraint that you can apply to the purpose that is still part of the purpose.
Yeah, it is.
So I mean, there's that fundamental, like, a video that gets CTOs to sign up for a demo on our landing page. And then, while not losing sight of our brand identity and
we have to do this by July 1st.
Yeah, the fact that it's due this date and whatever, like, those all become kind of these, like, but as we've always said, constraints actually breed creativity. And so it forces some of those decisions along the way to have fewer options. But you can still go back to that purpose and let that purpose guide you as to which of, instead of maybe having 5 options, you've got 3.
Yep.
All right, well, which of these 3 kind of best satisfies that? I think that's all I really wanted to say on there being exceptions. But I mean, it's true of any rule. And this isn't just the rule, as Louis put it, this is the law. Okay. Well, that was a hearty discussion.
Yes.
I'd like to thank Uncompany for the topic suggestion.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I'd like to thank Jacqueline for getting us organized so that we could prepare this in advance. I'd like to thank Louis for coming up with skyscrapers.
Great job, dude. I think he's probably
dead. Probably dead. Okay, cool. Little recap here.
Yeah, recap.
Recap, I would say, form ever follows function. This is the law. Check out competitive sailing yachts because those things are awesome.
And there's examples all over the place too.
Oh yeah, well, and they're organic and inorganic. You even see it in a lot of product design. And so it's not necessarily that a tea kettle is, form following function, but maybe a tea kettle made a certain way is form following the function because of the fluid dynamics and boiling water and whatever. Then we started talking about video.
Yep. And that you have to lay out that purpose before you can decide what sort of video you should be having. That's the big message here is don't send a team, a creative, like an agency like us, don't send them hey, I need this animated video with a script and all this stuff attached. You could, and you could get
or
that,
if you do, at least say because.
Right.
This, and this.
Yep. And then let them help.
Do you have any other ideas? Yeah. I really like the idea, and I think this is something we should explore on kind of creating that basic positioning statement, that basic purpose statement for each video. Based on what we understand of our goals, our audience, our channels, we want this video to get these people to do this thing in these places. I think there's a blog post. I think there's a podcast episode. I think there's a guide. I think there's something we could really lean on for that. We talked about a couple examples. We talked about the Lucid Thoughts channel that was originally kind of a 3 explainer videos ask that actually ended up becoming an educational, lightly branded pre-awareness YouTube channel. And we talked about another one of our clients in their sales team viral video contest, which parts of it worked, where it maybe broke down a little bit, but then also where that process led us. And then, like we just discussed, there are always exceptions to the law. Did you hear from our sponsor again real quick?
Yeah.
The Chernobyl Tourism and Visitors Bureau. Forget about Chernobyl and welcome to Chernobyl. Visit our interactive website and plan your trip today. Then visit us in 3,000 to 20,000 years. But not now. Please don't actually come and stay here for another 3,000 to 20,000 years. We cannot stress that enough. Chernobyl. What happens in Chernobyl spreads throughout Eastern Europe and has a half-life of 180 to 320 years. The Chernobyl Tourism and Visitors Bureau. All right. Well, I believe that is this episode 40 of the the Video Reformation Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, like, rate, subscribe, all those things. iTunes, Stitcher, whatever that sentence is supposed to be. Basically, just download, enjoy it, and let us know what topics you'd like us to discuss.
Yeah, download in multiple places.
Yeah, download everywhere. I know I do. So, yeah. The video and the audio. I don't care which one you watch. Just download them both. That's all I care about.
It's hard to watch the audio.
Yeah, but it can be done.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's just this static thumbnail image.
Oh.
And then, like, the little play bar thing moves very slowly. All right. Well, that's it for us. We will see you next time on the Video Reformation Podcast.
Bye.
How's your nose?
I can't
Forehead.
scrunch a whole lot. That hurts.
Okay.
Is it bruisey? I haven't looked.
A little bit on the bridge of the nose.
Yeah.